to another episode of E for Explicit Podcast. I'm Corey, and today we have Robert Bigman, who spent 30 years in the CIA. He was on Netflix recent documentary called Spycraft, talking about cybersecurity. And he is the president of Be Secure, right?
To Be Secure.
To Be Secure,
right.
Based out of Rockville?
Bethesda.
Bethesda, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So just give me a little background about yourself real quick, and then we'll dive into this.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I spent 30 years at CIA, almost all of it in defensive cybersecurity, a variety of different assignments responsible for risk assessments, vulnerability assessments, obviously testing, policy, fundamentally what you do in cybersecurity in any organization. Last 15 years there, I was the CISO, responsible for the entire program. Built the organization, expanded their capacity, and made a lot of friends and a few enemies along the way. Worked with a lot of vendors, worked with a lot of different government agencies, focused obviously a lot on protecting our data, which is the lifeblood of the organization. I retired in 2012, and as you mentioned, I now have my own consultancy with just one person, me, at To Be Secure, and I consult to private companies largely in the financial area, but others as well, infrastructure, and foreign governments, U.S. government agencies as well, all on cybersecurity, mostly focused on how to keep the really nasty hackers away from your data and your capabilities.
Right. And that's mainly for like internal use. Like you're not, doing like espionage over in Russia.
No, never did.
Or did you? No, I'm kidding. No. Right. So
I was on the defensive side.
Right. Okay, cool. So that's I think that's something that like a lot of people don't even really like understand or know, like is equal as important, if not more important, to make sure our stuff is tight and make sure no one can get in and hack our stuff versus us going out and being proactive.
Yeah. There's
I think
no value. There's no value in obtaining it if you can't secure it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So so you were basically responsible for the program that made sure no outside source tried to hack the CIA's information and get personal data on their analysts and on their people and just in general financial information and stuff like that, right?
Well, I mean, obviously what they wanted to know was what we knew.
Right.
Right. Because they want to know what agents and who we had in their government reporting to us.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's what espionage is about.
Right.
It's about recruiting people in foreign governments to give you their information. That's what human espionage is, and that's what the CIA does.
That's crazy.
So my job was to make sure that those systems and data that we were collecting that information stayed secure, was only authorized by people who were authorized to have access to it.
Right. So why CIA? How did you fall into that?
Fell into is very good. It's pretty close, actually. Good guess. So I was in graduate school, and I saw a sign up for an internship with the U.S. government. Didn't say who exactly. And my understanding of the U.S. government at the time was a little vague.
Right.
And I ended up doing an internship with an organization at the agency called FBIS, for Foreign Bureau Information Service. Anyways, it collected open information that was published by the various foreign governments. And from that, I developed an interest in basically the agency's mission, which I found was absolutely fascinating. And basically, I left the internship, and then I saw another opportunity. Actually, someone contacted me about an opportunity in cybersecurity there. And I said, yeah, I kind of enjoyed doing that internship. So I went back. And my first thought was I would come and stay for a few years. And a few years turned into 30.
Wow.
So I loved the work. I loved the organization. The people were great. And it was every day was a challenge.
Right. I can imagine, it's like, that's kind of like one of the distinguished, agencies on the planet, really. And the fact that you spent 30 years theirs is quite fascinating. Pretty much every person that I've talked to that's worked at the FBI, I've talked to agents, I've talked to CIA people, and everybody in those agencies pretty much are there like their whole career because it's such
Yeah,
a
that's right.
it's a good job, not even just like financially and just stability, but it's just like the work that you're
Yeah.
doing, you're so passionate about and you're so, into it
No, it's
that.
not a great job financially. I mean,
True,
it's a
true.
government
Right,
job, right? So you get a government salary, and I think compared to most other agencies, the agency promotes probably faster and better. But it's still a government job. But no,
right,
it was all about the mission.
right,
We believed in the mission, and when you become that dedicated, you don't realize as the years going by,
right,
you're working.
right. Head in the ground, just
Yep,
head in the sand, just.
exactly. Doing the work.
Right, right. Yeah, it's funny because I'm a filmmaker by like trade or whatever. So I actually applied years ago to the CIA.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and like it was so funny. I was living in DC or New York at the time, and then I moved to Charlotte. And like a year and a half later, they hit me up for like an interview. And I'm like, oh my God, you're just now like my life has changed so much at that point. And I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, you're just now hitting me up for this. And then I went in for an interview and then like I literally like never heard back. I don't know if it was like my tattoos or what, but it was
Well, you
like,
were not selected.
yeah, I was not selected. Yeah. So whether that's good or bad, it is what it is, I'm
No,
sure.
that's not. It's not commentary on you. It's
Right.
commentary on them. He just didn't feel the need they had at the time, or they
Right.
already felt it was someone else. So
Right. Yeah.
they
It's just
they
funny.
don't communicate a lot to those who don't get the job.
No, definitely not. No, they were like, it was so funny because it was like this, like, it wasn't like, because, I've obviously applied for multiple jobs in my life, and it wasn't like a normal email to me. It was like,
Yeah,
hey, remember this application you applied for? We got something extra for you. And it was so like, I don't know, so CIA, I
not
think.
normal.
Not normal. Yeah. It was very discreet.
Yep.
I thought
Right.
it was a scam at first. And then I like
Right.
looked into and talked to someone. It was crazy. But anyway, let's talk about the Netflix documentary. It's
Yeah.
called Spycraft. It aired in 2020, just recently, in January, I think it was when it
Mhm.
came out, and I found it fascinating. Talking to, anytime I find a documentary that piques my interest like that, like Unabombers, serial killers, agencies, government things, spy, espionage, especially. I'm always, and that's how I came across you. I find interesting people in those pieces, and I literally hit you up on like LinkedIn or whatever and just bug you. And it's been effective, but I was fascinated specifically by the cyber part of it because a lot of the other stuff was kind of common knowledge almost because
Yeah.
most of it
I
was
think some of the
Cold War.
details may have not been
Obviously, yeah,
known.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But I agree with you. Yeah. I thought the cyber and the covert communications one was particularly very, very well done.
Right, right. And it blew my mind because I just didn't, the little things like you were saying earlier about like just the espionage aspect of it was just crazy that even back then, they had these amazing abilities to hack like radios and stuff like that and
Oh, yeah.
it was incredible.
Yep.
So tell me your experience about, that documentary, how that kind of came about.
Yeah. I got contacted by the company who obviously did the development work and the filming and the interview and all the editing for the Spycraft
Right.
series, and basically went to New York, and there was a series of interviews and questions. They provided you the questions before, so you can review them and to get a clearance approval on whether or not you can answer them or not.
Wow.
Um, and then it was a matter of, basically sitting in a very warm room, as I remember, in the summertime, poorly air conditioned. It felt like I was back at the CIA, and answering a series of questions, of which they used in the final presentation about 5 to 10%,
Of course. Of course.
as they obviously do because of the editing requirements. But I think, and credit to the company who did the work, I thought they did a wonderful job of finding me aside, finding other people who really understood, what we refer to as the ground truth in the history of espionage, and
Right.
how things work and how things don't work. It wasn't really designed to be a sexy expose of espionage. It was more to give you, again, a documentary insights into how things really, really do work.
Right.
And they found the right people, many of them who I know, to basically, provide that information. And my hat's off to them. I thought they did a wonderful job.
Right. No, I was definitely kind of, I thought it was going to be because off the trailer, I was like, oh, this is going to be super sexy. I thought it was going to be like a boisterous kind of just like, just crazy documentary. Like a lot of those
Yeah, right.
Netflix pieces are,
Yeah,
but I was blown away to your point of like the accuracy and just how like informative that the one guy who's on every episode is the historian.
yeah,
Uh,
Melton.
he was
Yeah, oh,
phenomenal.
he's basically, you can find him at the Spy Museum, nine
Right.
to five every day. I mean, he knows everything about
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
He studied the history of espionage. He's just a walking, library of
Literally.
espionage knowledge.
Right. Yeah. He
And
was
he presents it in
fascinating.
such a way that it's easy for everyone to
Yes.
understand.
Yes.
That's the other.
That was the key. That's the reason why, because I'm a total like Neanderthal, like when it comes to just that kind of stuff. So I was like, wow, I understand 100% of this. It
Yeah,
wasn't over my head. It
right.
was,
No, he really does it very well.
yeah. All of you guys were phenomenal. I just thought it
Oh,
was very,
thank you.
very informative. And I felt like it was, not that it was like do whatever, because like we could do with or without that kind of stuff, but I thought it was good enough to where it was like, wow, this is great information for like the general public to know and realize like kind of like what we were doing even at that time period.
Yep, I agree.
Right. So, that kind of brings me to my next topic is kind of like so much stuff has happened, obviously, in the last just a year and a half to 2 years. Um, and, we're always worried about like, oh, like a nuclear holocaust and like all these like huge wars and all this other stuff. But I kind of am understanding also. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I think that a cyber threat is a little bit more realistic and I think scarier because, the whole, hey, they could like take out our whole grid and all that crazy stuff. I don't even know if that's possible, but like what, in your opinion, would be like our biggest threat as far as like whether it's Russia or China? We had the Russian issue with the election and all
Sure.
that other stuff.
So you are right to have that sense of fear, because overall in the United States, and this is true globally, by the way, our cyber defenses, for a lot of reasons, which would take a couple hours for me to explain, our cyber defenses are not very good. And I don't know if you were paying attention to the recent SolarWinds event that
No.
occurred when Russians hacked basically through a supply chain, were able to get access to a product that's used widely across the U.S. government and in private industry, and modify the software in order to basically access information and send it back to Mother Russia.
What?
Um, we don't have very good defenses, both in the corporate world primarily. We interconnect systems without much thought as to the security risk. All of computer automation is all fundamentally based on making people's lives and jobs and existence easier, right? To provide you with some service or some capability that makes your life, easier to do. Online checking, video apps on your phone, everything's designed to do things faster, better, and make your lives easier. The problem is that has come with security implications and a security cost, which we fully, even today, don't appreciate. Because to do that, you have to both interconnect various systems from various companies to share data and push it down to your phone device or to your computer. And although that's a wonderful opportunity and gives you, great benefits in your life, when we point out the security risk, those tend to because the advantages of the tool are such that people prefer to have the benefit than pay the cost. We're going to continue to pay the security costs for a long, long time. And it's at the point now where we really don't even know. If you ask someone in the U.S. government, for example, at DHS, so what is connected to, what are we all connected to? No one knows. No one can appreciate the extent of what you're connected to.
That's crazy. So are we better? Is our security at least better than like other countries like Russia and China? Or are they just like tenfold?
When you say ours as a country?
Yeah.
Geez, to be honest with you, I don't know. I think we're not that great. but here's the point: the others aren't that great either. No one's really good. No one's really good at it. And it's not just the interconnection net; it's also the fact that the computers that we buy are not very good at security. They just, the computer is the operating system, the applications, the software. They just don't do security very well.
Right.
That's why every Tuesday Microsoft has, now they have Patch Tuesday, and there's just hundreds and hundreds of patches being rolled out annually to everyone's computers. And someone ought to ask the question, why is it like that? Why? Yeah. Why can't we just have them be made more secure in the first place? And the reason is because, well, we don't regulate. We don't have security regulations for anyone, frankly. You can build whatever application you want, buy, purchase and develop whatever software you want to develop in software and post it in GitHub and give everyone access to it. And computer manufacturers themselves, frankly, don't have a standard. The automobile makers, when you make a car, you have certain safety requirements to sell it in the US. There are no cybersecurity standards for you to build and sell a computer system in the United States. There simply aren't.
I wonder why. You would think that would be.
You would think, and I've spoken to people in Congress about this on many occasions. And part of it is, it's not the only reason, part of it, there's a large lobbying effort going on by the IT industry, the Silicon Valley industry in Washington, to convince them that we don't need regulation, right? We don't need standards. We know how to do cybersecurity well, and it is a bit of an esoteric science, right? And it's hard to explain to legislators what needs to be done when Microsoft's convincing them that no, you don't need to do that. We've got it under the control. But the truth is, they and all the others do not have it under control.
Right. Right. That's unfortunate. So then, you mentioned apps and stuff like that, which kind of, I thought it was interesting that when Trump was in office with this whole TikTok app, it was owned by China. And then he basically was like, I'm going to ban this in America unless if an American company purchases it. And then Oracle purchased the American and whatever the territories that aren't basically China. And, so was that like a kind of like cybersecurity kind of like proactive move or?
It's more of a nation state to nation state political move more than anything else. But to make the point, there's no question that they were using that app and could use that app to further their national aims of espionage and privacy, and of course privacy violations.
Right.
So it was accurate, his point, and I think the policy was accurate. But understand it's one of many apps
right, yeah,
that the Chinese have their hands on. And in fact, as I told you before, the whole application development process is it's difficult for anyone to get their hands around. You really don't know. If you look at you take an app like WhatsApp, you don't really know what applications and what modules and which applications were made by whom.
Right.
So it's hard to say, that this is a US app or that's a French app or that's a Chinese app. These applications are just collections of largely open source modules that perform various functions that someone just downloaded and glued together, added some functionality and put it up on the marketplace.
Wow. Yeah. And the information that they're getting is incredible. I mean, when I download an app, because I'm an idiot. I download TikTok. I download the face aging app. That was the Russian app, and all this stuff. I'm fascinated by the questions that it asks me. It literally will be like, can we download your contact list? Because they'll want and I'm like, wait, what? And then now the iPhone says, do you want to use your location? Like
Wow,
always.
use your application, right?
Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, like, okay. And then, are you familiar with Huawei?
Yes, I've heard of them.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, that's what this reminds me of, is like the Chinese had like the biggest distributor of phones basically. And then they were basically had a back door to, to that software. And those phones are now illegal in the United States.
Well, it's yeah. The phones, I think, were ZTE. Huawei makes the actual communications
Right.
networking products, the routers and the switches
Right.
that connect everything together.
Right.
And you're exactly right.
That's crazy. Well, and so I mean, what would be your kind of like? I mean, I don't know. I see a lot of when I watch the documentary The Social Dilemma, all the app people and stuff like that, people that the big guys at Facebook and stuff like that no longer work there are like, my kids are never gonna have Facebook. Are you kind of like the same way? Are you like very kind of like
I personally don't use Facebook and a lot of social media because I just, my generation, I think just has a different perspective on sharing information
right, right, right,
than
right,
others do. And it's just not part of my being,
right,
frankly. But even if it was, yeah, I'd probably be reticent to use it anyways because of my knowledge of, how it can be used to steal information out of your phone and from your other apps that you're using, like your banking app. So for
right.
me, it's largely a security play.
Right. That's you know what? It's funny you say that because that scares me. My baking apps and stuff like that are so like just always throwing stuff around. Like if I apply for something financially and they want to link to my, my bank account, it happens like instant. And I'm like, wait a minute, that was way too easy. That has to be like easy to hack. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, yep, yeah. Again, that's what happens when you basically allow industry to regulate themselves in cyber, right?
Right.
Again,
Wow.
ease of use and performance and features always trump security.
Yeah, no, it's in is it US is definitely like all about convenience. So we'll take that over,
Of
you know.
course. Yep, yep. And the bad guys know that,
Right. So they just milk it.
right?
You know, what was I gonna say? So okay, so kind of back to the Russia China thing. What do you think what do you think is more practical, Russia or China? China like they've already hacked our stuff just recently. You said Russia hacked our solar panel company or whatever that was,
Oh, the
right?
solar winds. Yeah. I mean, they're both enemies from a cyber perspective. They'll both exploit any opportunity they can get to steal data.
Right.
Um, I don't know if you recall the famous OPM breach,
Oh, what's that?
the Office of Personnel Management breach, happened in
No.
2015.
Uh,
I'm not sure how old you were in 2015,
yeah,
but
I was
yeah, the Chinese were able to steal all the U.S. employee personnel records,
what?
including mine, from the Office of Personnel Management. Yep, they got access to the OPM network, found where the personnel files were stored, and just took off with them.
Oh, you guys talked about that in the documentary.
I think it was mentioned. That's right.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah. Right.
How the
Right.
hell did that happen?
Well, the details the details are ugly, but they got access to via one of the an OPM officer's laptop that had connections to the network and didn't have very good security.
Right, right.
And they were able to spoof that account and access the network and install software, malware as it's referred to, on the network and on the systems that have the database in it. And they were able to just take the database, pack it up, and ship it out.
Oh my God. And they have that like currently too now.
Well, no, it's when they stole it. I don't know. Hopefully they don't have it currently, but who knows?
Right. Right. So when someone steals something like that, how do you get it back or do you have to change
Well, you don't.
everything? Right.
You don't. You can ask. They tend not. They tend not to, return things. once
Right.
they steal them. And now you have, of course, the situation with ransomware. I don't know how familiar you are with the situation with corporations being infected with ransomware.
No.
So ransomware is basically a attack against your organization in which they hold your data hostage by encrypting it on your network.
What?
Yep, look up ransomware.
Okay.
So they'll basically get access to your network via one of these hacks, and they'll install software that will encrypt all your files. And if you want to decrypt it, you have to pay them usually in Bitcoin to get the key back and the software to enable you to decrypt the data and use it again. It goes on.
Whoa.
We're well over 5,000 companies in the U.S. have been impacted by it.
Oh my God. Didn't Target get hit?
No, yeah, that was not ransomware, but that was also a hack as well
I
against
remember
their
that.
network. That they stole customer information.
Right, right. Now when people do that ransomware, is it like countries or is it like
No,
anonymous?
it is mostly cyber criminal gangs, which are groups of people who just want to make money off the cyber espionage. We'll call it cyber espionage, but over the cyber exploitation business.
Wow.
And their desire is just to get you to send them money, bitcoins,
Mhm.
that they can go buy. And it's, you've seen, I don't know if you've seen them, but there's pictures of these young Russian cyber hoodlums driving around in Maseratis in downtown Moscow.
Wow.
And they get protected mostly by the nation state to operate there. They have to pay a bit of a tax, of course, to the government and provide tolls if they ask, but they're pretty much free to operate and do whatever they want. And these gangs exist all around the world, by the way. They
Right.
have them here in the United States as well.
Wow. That is so is it kind of like dark web like ish
Yeah,
stuff?
some of it involves the dark web, but a lot of it doesn't. A lot of it, just frankly, cyber theft.
Wow. So you can't use McAfee, right? Or whatever.
You can try, and it may find some things, but a lot of these hacks now um, take advantage of what are called 0 days, which are basically, brand new, unpreviously known vulnerabilities and systems that the hackers take advantage of to enter your network. The attack against OPM, where they stole the files, used exactly a 0 day that was able to bypass most of the security defenses in the OPM network to get access to the data.
Wow. So is it my understanding is it's like hackers will come up with something to whether it's ransomware or whatever to kind of like encrypt it or manipulate the other side's data, and it's always like on the defense side you're always having to like come up with new ways to counter
That's
that.
right. That's right. Yeah, usually it's a new company out of Israel comes up with a solution
Yeah, right.
for the very last problem.
Wow.
And we've got tons of companies coming up with what I call band-aid solutions to the problem.
Right. So what would not be a band-aid solution? And if you had a magic
Well,
wand, what would you?
well, the band-aid I think is, as we discussed earlier, is you need regulation. You need a law or laws that regulate what can be done, how systems have to be secured and built and protected, and specifically to protect the U.S. government. If you're going to sell systems to the U.S. government, what standards they have to meet in security to be able to process U.S. government information. We don't have those. So to start, I would start putting pen to paper and start writing regulations.
Right. Right. Yeah, that sounds like a
That's how we used to have hundreds of thousands of deaths in automobile accidents before cars were made safe. You don't remember, you're too young. You don't remember unsafe cars. Did you ever hear of a car called a Corvair?
no.
Okay. Well, look up Corvair.
All right. Was that the one that was catching fire?
No,
The
that was the Vega
okay, yeah. All
or the
right.
Pinto.
Right.
That was also a problem. But GM, Chevrolet made a car called a Corvair that someone wrote a book called Unsafe at Any Speed.
Wow.
And no matter how you drove the car, if it hit a certain angle in the road, the car would just flip over.
Oh my God.
And of course, there was no safety belt at the time, so you went flying out of the car.
Right.
There was no safety glass, no protected cushioning of the buttons they were just danger traps. So
Right.
eventually the government had enough of it and started writing regulations, and that's how we got, secured, safer cars.
Right.
Well, today we're basically our computer systems are 1964 Corvairs.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, that's what you're driving around right now in your laptop.
Oh my God. Just ready to roll at any moment.
Ready to roll at any time.
That's insane. And it's funny you say that about cars because like every freaking commercial is like top safety rated number. It's like, how can this car, all these different cars win the same award every year?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I always thought that, to me, the company that comes out with better security, I think potentially has a selling point, a marketability. I think people now understand that there's a risk and are looking for systems and software that basically offers real security.
Right. But it has to be convenient.
But yeah, for the U.S., it has to be convenient. That's almost always a conflict. That's the struggle that goes on in IT these days.
Wow, that's fascinating. Well, tell me about To Be Secure, the company that you started in 2012.
It's just me, as I said, and I basically consult mostly with. Have you heard the title before of a CISO? A Chief Information Security Officer, which is the senior person in an organization responsible for cybersecurity.
Right.
So I usually work with them, either in industry or in government, to help them kind of figure out what to do. Right? There's so many things you can do. There's so many things that you have to be secure. You have to worry about. But I mostly work with them to help build their security program to be effective, and to, in my case, focus a lot on how to resist, sophisticated hacking. The one, like I mentioned, with SolarWinds,
right,
or the OPM hack,
right,
which frankly wasn't all that sophisticated. But anyways,
didn't sound like it was.
Yeah, it wasn't. But it was. But the point was, it was effective.
Right.
So what does it matter if it was sophisticated or not? Right.
Right.
It did what it had to do.
Right.
So it's a very busy job. I spend a lot of time on it, more than I thought I would. But it's I like the challenge.
Right. So what kind of stuff are you seeing? Similar things that you saw in the CIA that you're seeing with these private companies and other agencies?
No, it's changed a lot in the years. For example, we didn't worry about ransomware. It was never a concern. But when I deal with a new client now, it's the very first question out of their mouth is, how do I keep my systems from being ransomed? What are the following things I need to do? And I work with them and give them a list and say, all right, let's start with this, start with that. Now, of course, post SolarWinds, the issue is everything about supply chain security. So I help them kind of figure out how to secure their supply chain. And there's always a new challenge coming on in cybersecurity that they need assistance with.
Right. So basically the supply chain would be like, okay, you have the main company secured, but where they buy X, Y, and Z might not.
Yeah. And that X, Y, and Z may have access to their network.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Damn. So you could really go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I try not to.
Right. Man, that's crazy. Well, is there anything else you wanted to talk about, or
No, this was great.
Right. Yeah, no, this is awesome. I really appreciate you coming on and taking the time. I know it's a short one, but I mean, those are really the main questions I wanted to cover. And I wanted to make sure China or Russia, you gave me your magic wand and its regulation. So I agree with you. I think that's probably the best way to go. But as like you said, the United States is all about convenience, and if it's not convenient, we're gonna keep.
Not gonna work.
No, we're gonna keep doing TikTok videos and face swap apps.
That's right. That's right. Thank you for the time.
Absolutely, man. Well, that's another episode for E4 Explicit Podcast. We'll see you next time.